What's up, everyone? It is Physio Monday. Hope you all had a wonderful weekend. I know we did. Today we're going to be talking about shoulder injuries, and more specifically, should you be training if you have a shoulder injury? We've got our resident physiotherapist here. Stick around. You're not going to want to miss this one.
Yeah, Marissa.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.
What's up, everyone? My name is Yanni Baumeister. To my left is Phil. Across the table is Rad. Behind the mix is Richie. We are Unity Gym and the UMS. If you want to know how we turn driven people into athletes, download our blueprints. They're all free. They're our biggest insights from the last 3 decades of our personal training. What's up, everyone?
Feeling good. Feeling charged. Had a good weekend. Feel recharged. Had a good date with my wife on Saturday.
Which ended at our place.
Which ended at your place, yeah. Yeah, that's what happened. That's what we were talking about it when we got home, and I was saying that's one of the best dates we can have because our son Keanu got to play with your kids, his cousins. So it's actually one of the most relaxed times you get as a parent because you're not running around trying to stop your kid from going crazy. So it was good fun.
Yeah,
it's a good day, and it was a great weekend. You know, I made the most of being indoors in the rain yesterday. I took my son on a virtual roller coaster by putting a YouTube video on of a roller coaster, and I was bouncing him around in the lounge room. I got a few likes on.
Check it out on Facebook.
Facebook
if you're
post.
friends
Yep.
with Rad,
Go and have a look at my Facebook profile. How are you, Phil?
Yeah, good. Just happy to have my right-hand man back.
Yeah,
it's good to be back.
Empty
It's good
last
to be
week.
back.
Coronavirus free.
I was on coronavirus self-quarantine last week. My test came back negative on Friday. Still don't feel amazing, but I'm here.
Yeah, and for those on the podcast, Gianni usually sits to my
Funnily
right,
enough,
so.
what's his name? Donald Trump's IQ test actually came back negative as well. So,
you idiot! Don't bring politics into our podcast.
We've got so many questions here, and we're starting because there's a lot on the online coaching group. So for those who are watching on the UMS Mastermind, the online coaching group is the next level.
Yeah, that's right.
Describe it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Look, it's where people actually enter into our ecosystem as paid clients. You know, so we do, of course, have an obligation to try and answer their questions first, and that's what we're going to do this morning, and then we'll move on to everyone else. So if you are
and just on the online coaching group, we've really enjoyed doing the online coaching calls on a Friday morning. We're a bit out of practice last week and started a bit late, but it's fun to do lots of video analysis and, with people on the line and similar thing, but we don't record those ones and put them up on the podcast.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. And we are going to get on time this week. We'll be on time. It's a new initiative, so it's taken us a little while to get used to it as part of our rhythm. So first up, we'll build some context here, and these are pretty straightforward questions, so we're not going to go too deep into the reads on them. We can answer this fairly easily. Matt Albanese here is saying, "Hi all, my plan is to start Foundations Phase 1 this week, but as I'm dealing with some shoulder pain, I'm considering subbing in the shoulder rehab routine in place of the upper body days." First and foremost, kudos to you, Matt. You're one of the first people. You must either be following our stuff or you're just very, very smart, because you're one of the first people to say subbing in some alternative as opposed to delaying the start of my training for a while until that pain settles down. So bang on there. A couple of questions. How best to do this? Number one, is the right approach to pick the phase that I can do without pain or just start with phase 1? He's referring to the rehab, the shoulder rehab. And number two, the second part of his question is, how do you determine when to move to a new phase in the rehab program? Do you want to kick things off here, Rad?
Yeah, sorry, I was just reading his question and I zoned out a tiny bit when you said that at the end. So you want me to say when do I progress?
Look, I'll start and you can jump in, then we'll go to Phil, okay?
Yeah.
Because Phil's usually the best. So we save the best.
Yanni and Yanni and me will give you the bro.
We'll go okay, terrible, great. Oh, it's good to be back. Okay, so my opinion, Matty, is that you absolutely start on phase 1 for that rehab, for that shoulder rehab program. It's there's two elements to the shoulder rehab program. There is a sort of a reactivation of the stabilizers in the shoulder, the rotator cuff, and we want to make sure that the rotator cuff is getting stimulus, being a stabilizer, not just being an internal external rotator like a lot of programs will have you do, including ours. You know, our program, once we move on, we do all the stability work in our big bench presses and overhead presses and things like that, and we only do isolated ER and IR, internal external rotation. But when we go back to rehab, what we're trying to do, often what happens when we injure our shoulder, the body kind of almost forgets how to do its job as a stability role because it locks everything down to avoid instability. And so we just want to spend a little bit of time, and we don't want to stay on it for very long. We want to just go back and reactivate those, sort of stimulate the stabilizers in a very, very easy setting, in a very unchallenging setting. Make sure that they're doing the job, and then along with that, the scapular, all the muscles that stabilize and sort of hold the scapula in place. So we want to work the scapula in retraction and the shoulder in external rotation. So that's my opinion. Where do you want to go with that, Rad?
Yeah, you always want to start with phase one because you're training the shoulder in the way that Yanni just said, and you just want to give it a little go. But I'd even add on, because there's a second part to his question that he's put in the comment where he said, pulling movements don't cause me pain, only pushing movements. Should I continue with the pulling movements in the foundations just to sub in the rehab place of pushing exercises? If it was me, and let's see what Phil's got to say, but if it was me, what I'd be doing is I'd be doing pulling movements. I'd do the phase one of the shoulder rehab first. I did that first because what it does is they're not really fatiguing exercises. They're just exercises that reawaken the neuromuscular connection for the muscles that retract and depress the scapula and hold the humerus in place in the shoulder, the ball and socket joint. So that's a really good thing to do before your workout to switch everything on. In the same reason why we do core activation at the start of the workout, it tells the body, okay, it's time to engage these muscles we're about to do all this exercise. And then I do whatever you can do of the phase one workouts, meaning I would absolutely do pulling movements. And now let's see what Phil's got to say about all that.
Here's the moment you've all been waiting for. It is the, what do you call it? Disclaimer. It's the disclaimer. Yeah. So when you say on this group just that you've got some shoulder pain, obviously I can't do an official diagnosis without information and doing a consultation. But if this is just kind of regular old, fairly innocuous shoulder pain, then certainly the kind of way that Yanni's laid things out is really good. And I think that I'd agree with Rad I generally try and keep as many of the, bigger picture sort of system movements as I can. So basically horizontal push-pull and vertical push-pull. But yeah, looking for ones that aren't too aggravating. So I'd keep some pulling in there if you have the time, but I'd prioritize doing the shoulder program if you don't have time. When you're saying it's generally a pushing pain rather than a pulling pain. I'm going to guess, and I'd probably put a bit of money on it, that it's that bicep aggravation at the front there with the pushing. And what I'd do first off is do a couple of sets of active hangs, really force yourself into that position and get things really switched on. And then
forcing yourself into scapular depression.
Yeah, so scapular depression and keeping your chest tall, pulling up through your chest and back down with the depression of your scaps.
Yep.
And then
just very, very quickly, for those of you playing at home that don't understand the jargon that we use, active hanging is where we set the shoulders in place but still support all of our body weight with a fully extended elbow.
Hanging from a bar or rings and just pulling yourself up but without actually bending your elbows.
Yeah, so that's right.
Trying to basically pull your shoulders as far away from your ears as possible and get your scapulars, your shoulder blades, into your back pockets. And I want you to try that and then do a simple sort of horizontal push movement in that exact feeling of like you've just been doing an active hang. And often that's sort of enough to get the axioscapular muscles, so the muscles that attach the scapula to your spine, to be kind of anchored enough that your rotator cuff works efficiently, and then you can start pushing again. So it's worth kind of trying that stuff early on to be like, okay, do I need to go through three phases of retraining stuff, or is it a simple technique cue that suddenly makes the system work a bit better. So I just give that a go and see how you feel. But otherwise, if it's still a bit angry and it's not kind of playing along with that, then I'd go through the phases.
I want to share just a personal experience that I've had, Matt, and everyone else who's listening, which aligns with what Phil's trying to say there. In my experience, and I've rehabbed a lot of shoulders, including my own, someone who's very, very good at technique won't need to regress to a rehab program like this because they have such strong neural pathways and strength in the shoulder stabilizer muscles that they can do exactly what Phil's saying. And then in most cases, I like to think of this rehab program as a means to clear the pathway for your ideal optimal sort of bar path or movement path when you're training pressing movements. It helps to set the scapula in place. It helps to reset everything so that you minimize glide in that shoulder joint. That's the ball and socket moving around and sort of doing things that it's not meant to do when you're pressing and doing pulling movements. And for 9 out of 10 people who aren't super strong, it's a really good place to start. But and that's why I like to say, yes, go back and just follow it and do it properly, because so many people run into problems, and we've seen it here in the gym too. People 2 years down the track still complaining of shoulder issues, and 9 times out of 10, it's because they just have really bad technique. Like they're not strong enough to hold their shoulders in the right position to avoid glide, to keep the shoulder blades down in their back pockets when they're and as they start to press heavier and heavier and pull and chin up heavier and heavier, there's just too much going on in the shoulder. And it could be because of a funny posture, or it could just be because they've got poor technique and haven't developed that baseline, that foundation of strength of being able to set the scapula properly.
Totally. Yeah, I think it's a great program, and you should definitely do it, even if you can do a bit of the pressing, like you might even just bring down the weight, the intensity a little bit on the pushing and pulling, and then kind of prioritize that for a little while just to give you a really good amount of stimulus with the kind of reactive stabilizing rather than sort of pushing. So.
The other really good thing I like about the program, sorry, I'll just jump in and completely hack the show, is there's very little shoulder injuries that I've come across that wouldn't benefit from doing it, and that you probably you can have a pretty serious rotator cuff tear and do that program, and it's not going to make the tear worse.
Yeah, I think it brings in some variability that you kind of don't get in other parts of training, where it is a bit more of that sort of reactive stuff, as I said, rather than just a internal external rotation, which means that then if you're out in the wild and you, as in real life, and you're just like getting up and you have to put all your weight on one shoulder in a straight arm position, or you're catching a kid or whatever, then you'll have that sort of preparation. And if your shoulder's been a bit angry leading up to this point, it could be a good idea to give it a bit, give it resilience.
What I was going to say is I'm fairly comfortable telling someone to do that program despite not knowing what their injury is, because it's quite a safe program. It's not going to make it worse, Whereas if you really, really want to go deep, Matt, I strongly advise that you connect with Phil outside of this discussion. Send him a PM on Facey and see if you guys can connect and do a consultation, because then he can better ascertain what might be going on.
Unless you're in America, then I can't do it.
Which is a problem, because a lot of our audience is.
And how do you progress to the next phase? It comes down to a few different things, in my opinion: pain variables, perceived rate of exertion, and experience. Like I purely believe that if you're super fit and strong and you've got quite good coordination, you shouldn't need more than 3 weeks on a rehab phase, 3 or 4 weeks. But if you're experiencing discomfort doing some of those exercises, then it's going to be hard to suggest to progress.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep, I agree.
And just because I think it can be useful to kind of understand things to look out for if it's not just kind of regular shoulder pain, that you should consider going and seeing a professional quicker than just giving sort of 4 weeks of it. If you are getting nerve pain, so tingling, numbness, shooting pain down your arm or up into your neck, anything like that, or you're getting kind of weakness that hasn't been there before on that hand, consider and down the arm as well. Then that would be the kind of stuff that I'd be looking at seeing someone a bit sooner rather than later. So just keep that in mind.
Cool.
So
onto Marissa's question.
Just before we do, I want to give a bit of a shout out. We've got lots of people on the live, and I want to know where you guys are. We've got a couple of people who have commented. Lee Clements, Dave Clark, Diane Norbury, thank you very much. Nathan Campbell. And Phil White. Who's this guy? Phil White. So, yeah, guys, do chime in. Let us know where you are. We'll give you a shout out and we will get to those questions shortly.
Just quickly, while Lee's got a question about explain the scapular involvement in the passive hang, just because we were just talking about the hangs. Basically, when you're in a passive hang, everything will be relaxed. So your scapulars in that case will be very much laterally rotated because of just the muscles that keep them retracted and depressed are no longer active. So they'll be elevated and they'll be laterally rotated, which will
The idea, the best explanation that I've heard of why we do a passive hang, it's like the passive hang is really unless you're really thinking about what you're doing in a day, it's probably the only time in a 24-hour period where the majority of the joints in your body are going to experience traction and not compression. So even just by standing up, gravity is compressing our spine, and that's just the way that gravity works. So when you grab onto the bar and your feet come off the ground, it does the complete opposite. Gravity now stretches out and decompresses all the joints right through the arms, the wrists, the shoulders especially, but the spine as well because of the weight of the legs. So that's what you want to think of. That's why it's called a passive hang. You just completely relax and you allow gravity to do its work and just...
And I've had alarmingly, and I say the word alarmingly with as much severity as I can put on my face, and people on the podcast have no idea what's going on. I am alarmed. I'm alarmed. I'm alarmed that I get people saying that you shouldn't do a passive hang.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Now, I've honestly had people say this on comments on social media and all sorts, and they've been told strictly by their physiotherapist not to do a passive hang. Now, I don't know what your personal circumstances are, and if you've gone to see a physiotherapist and they've said don't do a passive hang, there's probably a good reason for it. But in general, that is the worst case of wrapping your body in cotton wool if you were to say that that it is just a terrible idea to do a passive hang for the shoulder. And I've had people say that before, and I cannot disagree anymore.
And I think it kind of comes down to there's progressions for everything. So, you can do a passive hang with like weight assistance, so weight in your legs and just getting your body used to it. The reason why you wouldn't do it is if you had a, injury to the passive structures of the shoulder. So either that's going to be the labrum, the shoulder joint capsule, or the ligaments in the shoulder, or some kind of
that Rad likes to talk about,
or some kind of bony injury as well. And if you're doing that, then you're probably avoiding a whole bunch of other shoulder movements as well. So but again, think about progressions for everything. So a shoulder hang doesn't have to be passive hang doesn't have to be
all your body weight, and it doesn't have to be hands placed directly above the shoulders. You can go wide, you can do it on an incline. There's all sorts of progressions that you can work up to, but it is a very good exercise. Very good exercise.
Moving on. So Marissa, her question is, and before we read this, I feel like Marissa has paid some really good attention because this is a really good insight that she's got here. So
I agree.
Hi all, just looking for some confirmation that I have the right idea here. Listen up, everyone. Listen up. Tune in right now. I'm 4 weeks into Foundations Phase 2. I have managed to mildly injure my left shoulder blade, lat, not sure which. I think from attempting to put all of my weight into a German hang too soon. It's been around a couple of weeks now. It seems to be getting a little worse. So that tells me I need to scale back on intensity in certain areas until it's better. Well done. That is correct. So my idea is to scale back on the movements that cause it most pain at the moment. Pull-ups, active hanging. Well done again. And I still want to do the movements, just not put so much weight into it. If it seems worse after the workout, still doing too much. If it is the same and or getting better, then stay at that intensity level. Scale up slowly as long as it still seems to be improving. Is this the right idea? I hate to have to scale back because I want to progress. I want progression to go in a nice, perfect straight line, but I know reality doesn't work that way. Phil?
Should we just get Marissa sitting here and I'll
basically
do something else?
Pretty much. As far as I can tell, I'm going to say it sounds like you have paid very close attention to the message that Phil drives home every single week, because I couldn't say it better than that.
Yeah.
Couldn't articulate it better.
Yeah. That's very good, Marissa. You've paid very good attention to what. Anyway, I can't feel like
No, I really like that. Good on you, BWA, for putting a video in there. It's 21 minutes though, so I haven't kind of been able to look through and see what you said there. Sorry, but thanks for BWA, all the replies you do. But yeah, I think Marissa, you really nailed it there with just a great approach to this. So, and again, like, you know, you've got it's the shoulder blade / lat. Like the sort of specifics doesn't matter as much as the bigger approach. So I really like how you sort of just been like, whatever it is, like here's a good generalized approach I've got to it. And I'm really keen to hear how you go with that. And that last thing you've said there where, you want progression to be a nice straight line, but it really doesn't work that way, is just spot on. And it's such a important thing to embrace and not to hate, because you just gotta.
The fact that Yanni and I didn't embrace that early, and when I say earlier in our training, I mean even up to only just a couple of years ago, is one of the reasons why we got injured a lot. It's only been recently that we've really embraced that, and once you really embrace that last line that you said there, the journey just becomes a lot more enjoyable, because you just when a spanner gets thrown in the works, you just go, this is the journey, and you just go.
I'm going to be dealing with it this week. I've had a whole week off since my COVID isolation, and I was crushing my goals before that, and I might have super devastated.
Who knows?
Yeah, see, I don't know. I'm going to be soft as a teddy bear today in my training.
The German hang is a really tricky movement, especially if you haven't had it yet. So in the future, when you're looking at progressing to a movement like that, think about your training age with this sort of stuff. Think about your exposure to, weighted, pretty uncomfortable sort of movements. And if you, it sounds like you're someone who really wants to kick goals quickly, but yeah, you just got to take that progressive approach to new skills. So really, what's a nice regression of you can do with a German hang? Is it just getting more weight on the feet?
I think feet on the floor, just doing that chest stretch. Yeah.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah. So you grab onto some rings that are literally like at the height of your chest,
and just walk through.
You'd go through, so they're behind you, and then you just really. Oh, you mean that one where you just walk through?
I just mean walk through and then do a chest stretch. Yeah.
You can do that one as well.
And again, so you want to start with that, getting back into these movements, and then just ease into it. But and with the this could be a nice time to get sort of the active hang in there, because you're saying that anything hanging is a bit challenging at the moment. So doing an active hang will
be less painful than a passive hang.
Yeah, with feet on the ground to take out some of the weight.
Definitely.
Yeah, the thing, guys, to remember with the German hang is that, like for Rad, myself, and Richard, we only started doing gymnastics and calisthenics training very late in our training life, and we had developed a very, very high level of baseline strength before doing it.
Yeah.
For a new person who's kind of new to doing that and supporting their body weight in awkward positions, it is don't make the mistake of thinking just because it's in the warm up that it's not quite a difficult movement to achieve. I don't know what it's like to achieve in an unconditioned shoulder. I know what it's like to do very strong, and it's even challenging for me to do reps in a German hang. So. Just go slow.
Yeah. And I can see here that Marissa has done a reply to BY's thing there. And you're long story short, you're on the right track with the ways you're thinking of regressing some of the movements there. So, potentially instead of doing the eccentric pull-ups, changing that to like an eccentric sort of ring row, just whenever you're regressing sort of pushing and pulling movements, like generally your horizontal movements will be a bit less aggravating than vertical as a rule. So certainly getting used to your horizontal movements and then moving into change that range of motion to get back up into vertical as that becomes more uncomfortable.
So Nathan on the live stream has said, hey guys, first time on the live, usually have to wait for the podcast later. Awesome. Welcome to the live stream, brother. Any experience or suggestions on moving with a stent in the urethra? Between kidney and bladder? Every time I bend over and reach up tall, it rubs and causes pain. It should only be in for 4 to 6 weeks, but I don't want to do nothing during that time. I'm used to training 4 to 5 days a week. This one is for Phil.
Yeah, that's a really tricky one, mate. And thanks for jumping on live and asking a question. That's going to be one that you're going to have to probably work with. Get basic sort of outline of what movements you can do from your doctor or surgeon who put it in, and work within those bounds for now. I think
it's only 4 to 5 weeks. Just do what you can do. It's going to be such a blip in time, but if you mess it up, and then you got to go for resurgery again, that's just way worse.
Exactly.
And sometimes we just got to accept that.
Yeah. And so the way I sort of approach your training is start with the simplest version and the smallest range, and then move out from there. Don't be I'll give this a go and do something that's huge, too much and then regress backwards. You want to start basic, simple, and then work your way out. So you might want to stop looking at inspiration stuff about extreme calisthenics and
just
for the next couple of weeks.
Just focus on basic strength. Guys, I want to say this, and I really mean this in general, even from a macro standpoint for what we're all dealing with right now in the world. Days become forgotten, weeks become a blur, even years become a blip in the rearview mirror as you go through them. And with training, when you injure yourself or you get sick or you have to hibernate for a while or you miss out on the gym for a while, just focus on turning up and doing whatever work you can do. Focus on maintaining healthy habits, level up emotionally, psychologically, learn something new,
if it was me as well, I'd just be doubling down on arm strength and grip strength and shoulder strength. There's so much that you can do, maximal effort that isn't going to aggravate that,
Bending over,
bending over,
squatting and deadlifting might be out for a while,
but if you look at what you can't do, you'll get frustrated. But Bruce Lee said something that this stuck with me right through my life. I heard it when I was a kid. He said, "Don't let what you can't do get in the way of what you can do." And I think that's really, really powerful. That one saying had gotten me through so many slumps, because if you just focus on what you can't do, you get so down. But if you just forget about that for a minute and then start to focus on what you can do, you often realize that there's so much more than what you can still even fit into one workout on what you can do. And
the most important thing is keeping your exercise routine and keeping your motivation going. And if you can, just take this opportunity to work on, something that you've not worked on
if there's one little silver lining behind having to drop something from your training for a while, it is that it will, once you retake it up, provide the greatest opportunity for growth. Look at the flow and pace of adaptation and learning. When you're doing something, banging it out consistently week to week, your actual adaptation and your progression slows right down on those movements because you're so consistent with them. When you take one away, it provides a huge opportunity for accelerated growth. So,
definitely.
Just embrace that and come back and do a mad squat specialization program.
Yeah, that's right.
3 times a week, baby.
So we got time for one more comment here before we wrap things up. Casey Grimes is saying, "Hey guys, love your work and intuitiveness. Been a follower for 18 months or so. Finally got myself into the UMS. Awesome. Having had lower back issues from a young age, tennis and golfer's elbow, and now a rotator cuff tear, all by the age of 23. I've had enough. Excited for the process and opportunity to become strong and flexible." That's awesome, brother.
Nice one, guys.
Keep posting your progress, man, and ask us any questions that you need. We're here to help.
And I really like kind of what you said there about things being like the intuitiveness of what we talk about, because I think that's what my biggest message I really want to get across with physio is and training in general. People really like to complicate things, both patients, I think, for something to blame. I think people like latching on to something complicated and using that as a reason not to do the simple things consistently. And I also think health professionals sometimes fall in the trap of trying to basically mystify things, which, kind of gives them a bit more power in the relationship. And what I really hope from the takeaway of all these shows that we do is basically, if you do the simple stuff consistently, think about how you progress things in a really well-reasoned, small but constant steps forward, that will solve most problems. And only once you kind of getting all that stuff right, that's when you can start to get into complexity. But I think a lot of this should be sort of intuitive, and I hope that these principles that we talk about really start to hammer home, and you can approach it to everything you do in life.
Well, it must be working, because Marissa really had the right idea. So we are
absolutely.
I think the message is finally getting through.
I love what Diane Aubrey said here. Being consistent in practice until this lockdown. After binge watching the tutorials yesterday, I found some of the movement cues to be quite a revelation. Tips about what each movement was not were especially helpful.
Contrast training can be really good for over-exaggerating the wrong way to do things, and then that makes you feel what it's like to do it right. So that's
I'm really glad that you noticed that, because I do put a big effort into trying to explain what things aren't when I teach, because I've just seen it so often. I've seen people get it wrong, so I really make a point of saying it's not this. So great. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. That was a great show. I hope you all learned a lot about the shoulder. Tune in tomorrow for the mystery topic of the week. We haven't decided what it's going to be yet. Get some questions in. Let's see what you guys want to listen to.
I had a few questions lined up from people on the online coaching group, but Yanni and Rad have totally derailed me there, so sorry about that. Josh,
we can jump in tomorrow with them.
Yeah, I'll get back to you on those.
Yep.
holding them out for the Physio Monday. But
oh, no.
Oh, it's all good. We'll get more
thanks for all the great
chances
questions, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for the interaction.
We would love to keep talking all day, but we do have to bring it in for a landing at some point.
All right, guys, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. If you liked it, consider subscribing to our channel and make sure you click the notification bell so you know when our weekly videos are uploaded. Now, the best thing for you to do if you want to stay connected with us and get free online coaching is to join our private Facebook group. It's called the UMS Movement Mastermind, and we go live daily where we answer our members' questions. It's very interactive because you can post questions while we're live and we interact with you on the show. You can also upload videos or pictures of yourself with any movements, any stretches, strength training movements, calisthenics, weightlifting, anything that you're struggling with, and we'll critique you, give you feedback, let you know how you can get better. It's a really valuable resource. It allows a lot of communication with us and also our senior tribe members. You'll get answers very, very quickly, and it's absolutely free. So jump on Facebook, search for UMS Movement Mastermind and join now. Until next time, have a great day.